make notes. If for some reason you don't have a notebook, we have some available there. They're free. And
I'll take one.
Take one. See, check it out. Anybody wants one?
$5
All right. As we enter into this class, we are going to go to the Old Testament in 1 Samuel chapter 13. So I'll give you a few seconds there to go to this book. Roy, are you familiar with the Bible?
Yes.
Good. All right. So 1 Samuel chapter 13, we're going to use these two verses as an introduction to the life of King David. He is the king that we are going to profile. And I was debating if this was the right decision or not, but the only thing that I felt impressed to speak to you about, and it kept coming to me, was the life of David. And we're going to see how far we can go, or we will go. And there's still a possibility that we might shorten it and go into another subject. But we are going to begin. Okay, 1 Samuel chapter 13, verses 13 and 14. And he says, you have it? Mm-hmm. All right. And then, I'm sorry, excuse me. And Samuel said to Saul, thou hast done foolishly.
Nathaniel, Bible verse?
I will send you down. Thou hast done foolishly. Thou hast not kept the commandment of the Lord thy God, which he commanded thee. Remember that thee is you. For now would the Lord have established your kingdom upon Israel forever. But now your kingdom, but now thy kingdom shall not continue. The Lord hath sought him out, the Lord hath sought him a man after his own heart, and the Lord hath commanded him to be captain over his people, because thou hast not kept that which the Lord commanded thee. Okay. Just giving a little introduction. I know that we have used David as an example of many things, mostly good things. The truth is that very few in the Bible, especially in the Old Testament, have come close to the stature of David, with all the things that he did, and also with some of the mistakes and sins that he committed, because there's not another word to call it. In spite of it all, Noah, Abraham, Moses seemed not to reach that particular place that David reached, for many things and for many reasons. Those are the ones that we ever start. What makes David special before the eyes of God? And there is something, I say this from my perspective. I actually started studying the Bible since I was saved at the age of approximately 15 years old. So I have read the Bible through I don't know how many times. And I speak this from my perspective, like I said. There's something about David that compels us to like him. I can't say the same thing about Abraham. I can't say the same thing about Jacob or other men in the Bible, but there's something about David that compels us to like him, to sympathize with him, even to love him. It's hard to say why, but if you study as we plan to do, you will see the reason of why David comes on top of many of the figures in the Old Testament. In spite of the things that he did that were not right, for he was not a perfect man. Nobody has been. Only Jesus has been perfect as a man. We ask ourselves the question, who is this young man, a young shepherd, killer of giants, a poet, the sweetest singer of Israel,
Thank you.
suffered, persecuted, misunderstood, and loved as not many others. The only person that gets close to Jesus in his mannerism and his way is David. He made two big mistakes in his life. One was the fact that he committed adultery, and the other was that he actually made a census, and that brought a lot of anger upon him, because it was written in the law, "Thou shalt not count my people," God said. It was a way of being proud. Look how much I have. He didn't do it with a thought of pride, but nevertheless, it cost him. Maybe. The fact remains that it displeased God, and because of that, tens of thousands of people died. Yet, when we come to his sins, there's only one that comes up, and it is what happened to him and Bathsheba.
And then he killed her husband.
Right, he killed her husband to cover his sin. So he didn't kill him himself, but he put him at the front of the battle. So he made him responsible. So before we study David, we need to study his predecessor. And this is what we read this morning, because what we read here is concerning the king before David. The first king of Israel was who?
Saul.
Was Saul, okay? And Saul comes into existence because the insistence of the people about we want a king like other nations. We want to be like other nations. Yeah, it's okay, God is good, and God will protect us, but really we want a king. We want to be like another nations. And that was the first bad step that Israel took, as they forsook the guidance, protection, and leadership of God, and they accepted the leadership of a man, because he was the tallest of his countrymen, handsome, strong. He was one head above every man in Israel at that time. So he was chosen. And Saul, the prophet, was very grievous. Samuel, the prophet, was very grievous and sad because the people wanted a king. So God said, listen, quit crying and feeling sorry about this situation, because they have not rejected you. They have rejected me. And I'm doing fine. I'm doing fine. So it's not about you, Samuel. It's about me. They have rejected me. So give them a king and let them see how is on the other side of the fence, with me or without me. I was saying that to somebody not too long ago. So they choose Saul, and really Saul. We're going to divide this. When I bring the class, I try to break it down like an outline. So let us see. Let us see Saul, the king that was never a king. The king who never was a king. He had the title, but he was not really a king. He was called a king, he was honored as a king, he was respected as a king, but never behaved as a king. That's Saul. We can say that Saul was like a historic ghost. Like a historic ghost.
Let's go to
Nothing
the
has been written
recreation
about Saul.
and what that means at subject.
Nothing good.
Okay, all the classes
Even in
this
history.
particular quarter are all possible
Saul
ones.
is the guy like a soup that doesn't have any salt in it, insipid. There's something about him that you chew it and you want to spit it out,
Like bland.
like bland stuff. Yes. He doesn't have flavor. He's just, he has a personality without substance.
Yes. It is a sign of
He's like a forced accident. I'm using all those expressions to maybe you can actually click one out with one out. If you like the historic ghost, or you like the exhibit soup, or the personality without substance, or the forced accident. We see in 1 Samuel right there, because we want to give you a good background. Okay, if I don't give you a good background, then David is not understood correctly. Let's see 1 Samuel 10:1, and you go ahead and read it. Since this is a Bible class, feel free to ask any question or read any of the scriptures that I quote. 1 Samuel 10:1. Of course, this is for yesterday.
It means, another word could be a entertainment.
Then Samuel took a flask of oil and poured it on his head and kissed him and said, "It is not because the Lord has anointed you commander over his inheritance?"
All right. So here we see here the anointing of him, okay, of Saul. He was anointed with oil. That was the way the kings, the prophets, and priests were ordained or were blessed by God. It was a symbol of God's approval upon something. All right. Now, let us see this over here, because in 1 Samuel, let us turn the page to chapter 9, so we can get some. Let's see who this guy was. Okay. He's talking here about. And he says in verse 2, and he had a son whose name was Saul, a choice young man. You know what that means actually? Huh? That means that he looks special. You know, when you go and buy a steak, you want a US what?
Yes. USDA approved.
US choice.
That too.
Close enough.
Okay, all right. And he had a son whose name was Saul, a choice young man, and a goodly. That means nice looking. Somebody said that's me. I hope not. A goodly. That means, because I'm looking at it here. You okay? It says nice looking, and there was not among the children of Israel a goodlier, better looking person than he. From his shoulder and upward, he was higher than any of the people. So he is elected for his looks, yes.
I know this might be a stupid analogy, but
Nothing is stupid.
I always think about sports when I think of these things.
Yes.
It's just like those guys who they look like amazing because they're super tall.
Right.
And they can't do anything. But they're not coordinated. They look really good.
Right.
But once you put
They
them
fit the
there.
profile, but
Exactly.
they're not.
Yeah,
Like
probably
there's no substance
if
there.
they're at home, they see a mouse, a mouse, they probably jump on top of the chair. Get him out here, get him out here. You know what I mean? But
I would jump.
on the field, they are good at it. They're good at one thing. That's about it. Okay. So he is nice looking. He's attractive as a young man. He seems good. So let us not be deceived. Okay. So we are learning lessons of all these people, this class. Let us not be deceived. Looks deceive. You should never choose a mate, a husband or a wife, because of its or his or her looks, because it can be deceiving.
drawing, going out to eat.
That which is sweet can become bitter after a couple of years.
Cookie can be if
I
you're
didn't
doing
know
it
you,
hard
I didn't
enough.
know you were this way. You surprised me. You were not like that when you were courting. You look more and more like your mother.
Oh man.
I'm not your mama boy, I am not.
There are negative and positive
Oh
of
man.
I am not Johnny
now.
Flip Flop
Bible
Cake.
talks about
What?
Those are my words. So what I'm trying to say to you is that looks are deceiving. In fact, in friendship, the same thing happens. You go to school and you see somebody say, wow, isn't she nice? Isn't he nice? Well, until you push the certain buttons. Then all of a sudden, what is inside comes out. At jobs are the same way, right? You go in and you see people at your new job and you say, wow, then at the end, well, not the end, you know, after a while you see that the person that was so nice to you the first day is not so nice. And then maybe the one who did not care too much about you because they were paying attention to somebody else, that person becomes your friend. So looks are deceiving. Never allow looks to make you make a decision. That's very important for you. Okay, so he had a tremendous future. He was, from this point on, Saul becomes blue blood. He becomes the beginner of a dynasty. Dynasty. If you're in England, probably this is a dynasty. But what I'm saying is, yeah, I'm not from England. I'm close to England.
From you.
So the thing is that he was beginning a dynasty. From then on, it was going to be Saul's dynasty with his sons coming after him. The dynasty, I'm sorry, became something that was not really a dynasty. So like the duck dynasty. Or, that's all it is. Okay, it's not really a dynasty, but people play with words. What a dynasty? What are we talking about? A dynasty. So we have lost even the meaning of words. This morning I was talking to my wife and said, there's some words that were invented in order to make our vocabulary shorter. Okay, so what do we call a person who deals with issues? Okay, so in order not to explain all the things he does, we call him a scientist, right? Mm-hmm. A scientist. Somebody who works with the body and health and you know, they used to call him all kinds of stuff. Now we call him a doctor. So words are made in order to shorten the explanation of what you're doing, you know. Before the word carpenter came, what carpenter? What are you talking about carpenter? What is that word related to? Oh, it's the person who works with wood, right? So we name it carpenter. I don't know who came. I was actually trying to study the origin of words. It's very important, the origin of words. So here we find in chapter 9, will you please open chapter 9, verse 20? Anybody want to read it? I know this is a little boring, but I need to give you this background. Chapter 9, verse 20.
And as for thine asses, they were lost 3 days ago. That's the verse. Set not thy mind on them, for they are found. And on whom is all the desire of Israel? Is it not on thee and on all thy father's house? Is that the one you wanted? That's 9:20.
Okay, 20. Okay, I want to make a reference to verse 20 here when it says, set not thy mind on them, for they are what found. And on whom is all the desire of Israel. In other words, everything that is desirable, what he's saying, paraphrasing now, all the things that are desirable in Israel, they are for you. Man, what a power. Everything that you want is in the house. Whatever it might be, just say it and it'll be yours. That was his future. That God put on to his disposal. Now, let's go again to chapter 10. I know that I'm taking you all over the place, but Let's have a little profile here on so chapter 10, verse 6. Here we find, first we find his election, then his future, what he could have. Now let's see his transformation. Chapter 10, verse 6.
And the Spirit of the Lord will come upon them, and the shepherd of the tribe with them, a shall be thrown into another man.
Okay, the Spirit of the Lord was going to come upon him. So, and he will actually prophesy things, say things in the name of God, and he will be turned. He actually was going to be transformed into another man. Man, to think with me, please. He's nice looking, he's strong, he's tall. He has the future secure. And on top of that, God said you're going to be transformed into another man. How much more? People will kill for less than this. Right? Okay. So what happened? Verse 9. And so it was so that when he had turned his back to go from Samuel, God gave him another what? What does that mean? Another heart. Did God give him a surgery? Was he? What happened here? What does that mean to you, Ricardita? I want to give you another heart.
I feel like it changed the way that maybe he looked at things or how he addressed
Right.
that he cared more about him, and he was going to be king now, so he had to care about the people, he had to care
Okay.
about the nation.
Okay, Leroy, you are new today, but don't feel embarrassed, okay? To you, what does it mean? What does it mean to you? It doesn't have to be right, but you know, we are in a class, we try to figure out what our concept is. When he says that I'm going to give you another, he will change it to another person, he receive another heart. What does it mean to you? What would be your impression?
A new way of living.
Okay. In order to have another way of living, you need what?
Another way of thinking.
Right. You can have a new, you cannot have a new life unless you have a new mind. Because what you do is what you're thinking. So before you change your way of living, you have to change your mind. Because your mind will take you to this and this over and over and over and over again. To quit that, you're going to have a change of mind. And a change of mind has to come before I have a change of heart. Because one time I preached a message, come out through your head. How a child is born.
Head first.
On his foot. His feet come first. Or does it come out first? The head. How do you come out of problem, situation, temptation, sin? On your head. Change your mind. Allow God to perform a change in your mind concerning Him. That doesn't mean that you will be saved, but that's the way you're going to find the right path. Once your mind changes, that pattern, that vicious cycle, yes, vicious and vicious type of thinking, then you can reason, then you can understand, and you come out.
In this scripture, when he's saying a change of heart, didn't the word heart also refer to the mind, like the intellect?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but I'm just saying.
In the language.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's
because
what
you were
it
saying
means.
that a change of, I know I'm kind of mincing words, but because you said
He's
a
basically
change of
saying
mind.
direct from the beginning, from the get-go. In that language, it's direct.
Yeah.
Directly about
Is Geico insurance? What are you talking about?
You were saying that a change of mind has come before a change of heart.
Yes.
Yeah, which I'm not disagreeing with. I'm just saying here.
I'm saying that from the perspective of the New Testament.
Okay, okay.
But from the Old Testament, there was not really a change of heart.
Which is.
A change of heart
okay.
comes through Christ. Change of change of mind. Yes.
And
From
also.
perspective, it's a change of attitude, a change of perspective. You're thinking it in a different way now. Okay, God is dealing with you because you need to realize sin has done a very damaging work in our minds and our intellect. And sin has actually affected the whole man. That's why it's so confusing and so hard to deal with people. We're a complicated bunch of people, and we owe that to sin, and not only affect our relationship with God, but affect our relationship with others, with our neighbors, with our family, even with ourselves. So it takes a miraculous work of God. That's why Jesus came, to do the perfect work. Remember the class? Blessed are the pure in heart. Because before Christ, a purity of heart did not exist. And I want to make that clear. Nobody in the Old Testament had a pure heart. Yet they were called holy and they were called perfect. Why? Because in the Old Testament, if they obey God and they have faith in God to the best of their ability, God granted them, put into their account righteousness, even though they didn't possess it. It's like that your debt has been paid, but still you didn't pay it. I paid it for you. You follow that? You understand that, son? Okay. All right. So he becomes a transformed man. It didn't last long. Okay. He had victories without limit. Let us see. We're talking still about Saul. Okay. Chapter 10, verse 7.
And let it be when these signs are come unto thee, that thou do as occasion serve thee, for God is with thee.
In other words, whatever comes to your hands, do it, because God's going to be with you. You want to do something? Go ahead and do it. You want to go to war with your enemies? You go, because God is going to be with you. Okay, he even prophesied, we already read that. And then, in the midst of all this greatness and good things, comes a test. We can say a lot, we can have a lot of stuff, but one day we want to be tested. And we don't know nothing about testing until one day you go to school. Your first experience about being tested comes where? In school. Your parents never gave you a test. Did you? You have a kind of let's have a test about I want to come to you. I'm going to come back to you. Let's have a test of integrity. So feel this. Put yes or no, whatever you.
In the literal sense of the word, no, I didn't have tests from my parents, but they gave me a certain amount of responsibility, and if I failed to show that I was capable of that amount, they took it back. So I don't think that the first test is really education system.
Okay, no, it's not education about, but
it puts what you learn.
let's see if I can express it in a better way.
Like what he's trying to say is it puts it to
examination.
right.
Yes, the first.
It puts it to a test.
Yeah,
you know,
but my question is, when you were being tested by your parents, I was too. Did you realize you were being tested?
On occasion, yeah. On occasion.
How old were you? When you realized, I'm being tested.
6 months old.
4 or 5. You're like, don't eat the cookie. You're like, oh my god, if I eat that cookie, I am so true. I was moderately aware. I mean, I was aware of there was a situation in which I could make 2 decisions.
A lot of years have gone by then, right? Yeah. So it's kind of foggy right now. It's kind of foggy.
Sure.
Okay, but the first time that it hits you, that you are being tested and you will suffer the consequences, is when you hit the school and they give you some test, written test, and you go to the board and you see an F or you see a C, and they say, oh, I failed, and there are consequences. Okay, so really what happens here is that Saul is going to be tested. Okay, so you have been given a lot of promises. The world is before you. Do whatever you want to do. You are looked up to. You are a king. Great, great, great. Now you're going to be tested. Okay, just like the new president is going to be tested. Every person who comes into office is going to be tested. Okay, so when you get married, you're going to be tested. I'm going to be a good husband. Let's wait, because you're going to be
tested.
And when you have kids also.
You're going to be what?
Tested.
I want to hear it.
Tested.
I'm going to be the best wife You're gonna be,
Tested.
Best mother or best father? Say that.
yeah, best father.
Best
I'm
mother.
gonna be,
You're gonna be what?
I hear this a lot. I hear this, a lot of nonsense people say, you are gonna be a good father. You are gonna be,
Tested.
you're gonna be tested.
Amen. I'm writing that test.
Okay, so, see, we are tested. So, yeah, if you don't pass the test, you're gonna be toasted. So, the thing that we are dealing here with is that this man who has given all these privileges, all these benefits, and all these things, he faced his first test or trial. And we find him in 1 Samuel 10 and verse 8.
And thou shalt go down before me to Gilgal.
Okay, this is the first test, right here. This is the first command. So far it has been promises, great things I'm going to give you, you will have, you will enjoy. Now, the prophet says, go down.
Before me to Gilgal. And behold, I will come down unto thee to offer burnt offerings, and to sacrifices of peace offerings. 7 days shalt thou tarry.
Okay, wait for 7 days. That's another part of the test. Not only you will go to Gilgal, but wait 7 days because I'm going to come to you to offer a sacrifice. And what it says?
It says, wait until I come and show thee what thou shalt do.
Okay, so that's his first test. So what happened? Did he make it okay? Did he get an A plus? Or maybe an A minus? Or B plus?
Something that came to my mind when we were saying God give him another heart, because that comes in verse 9, was that a negative thing too? Because I just imagine Saul, I think of Saul as being very prideful and very
Arrogant.
arrogant. Thank you.
Yeah, he was.
So was that change of heart that, or was it just?
Okay, but the question is, even though he had a changed heart, he did this?
Yeah.
Okay, Adam and Eve. They were created in the what?
Perfect.
In the image of God. Were they tested or not?
Yes.
Thou shalt not eat. You have all the trees, which that's the worst thing you can do to a child. If you want a child to touch something, tell him don't touch it. If you want him not to touch it, never mention don't. Because that was my experience with my daughters. Don't touch it. Right in front of me, challenging me. Listen, Kayla, well, I hope you don't listen. But here is, don't touch that. Okay, Daddy. Looking at my eyes. Telling me, yes, that she's not going to get her hands moving towards what I told her not to. I told you not to touch it. Okay. What does the Bible say? The foolishness is in the heart of a child. So the moment of being tested comes, right? And he failed. Now, when did he fail? 3 months later? We need to find the timing. Timing is very important. Because when people read the Bible, they read it, like a novel, and all of a sudden when they turn a page, sometimes when you turn a page, 15 years have gone by. Something you need to keep in mind. Sometimes when you turn one page, maybe 25 years went by, and they don't understand. How come here? And all of a sudden this. And this is something good for you to understand. When you study hermeneutics, you find that in the Bible. That one chapter to another chapter, maybe years have gone by. So let us see, and we're going to conclude because, how come the bell rang already?
Didn't ring.
Didn't.
No? Oh man. Yes, come because you're going to be tested pretty soon. Both of you. We're talking about Saul. We're speaking. We're studying the profile of a king, and we are studying Saul before we enter into David. And with all the things that God gave David, now, with all the things that God gave Saul, he's being tested. And we were just talking about you.
Bad stuff.
We didn't mention no names.
We know.
We were talking about people that say, maybe you need to hear this, okay? So you don't lose the class. Okay. I was saying that a lot of times people say, you're going to be a good father. You don't know that. You're going to be a good mother. You know, I'm going to be the best wife in Miami. No, you don't know that. We'll see when you are tested. I'm going to be the best husband. We'll see. You're going to be tested. So I was talking to them. Okay, I didn't have you in mind really, but
Now you do.
now all of a sudden you came in and it hit me that you're going to be married in what, about a week and a half now?
I thought you guys were married
About a week.
yesterday.
You're counting the day, actually. Actually, well, you're going to be tested. Your ceremony is not going to be the test.